Okay. Hi, everybody. Sorry we experienced some technical difficulties. This is when I always just have my little phrase, perfectly imperfect. So no worries. It's okay. Things happen. My name is Melanie, and I'm with Center for Discovery. I do clinical outreach for Center for Discovery eating disorder programs and Discovery mood and anxiety mental health programs. And this is our Facebook Live 15-minute series where we're interviewing our clinicians on different topics. And we're also going to have guest hosts. So today I have with me again, Crystal. So Crystal, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Crystal St. John. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am also the program director for the Eating Disorder Outpatient Treatment Center in Temecula, California, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so topic today, another good one. I think they're all great because I'm just so passionate about this, but intuitive eating and intuitive movement, self-care while in quarantine. Here's your first question. What does being intuitive actually mean, and how do I know if I'm doing it?
Yeah, so it's such a great question. I think when people hear that term, they kind of go, okay, I kind of get the sense that it goes with like going with your gut feeling, but it's kind of like, how does that apply to like my health and wellness and self-care? This is a very primary form of like a goal that we use in our treatment to help support those that are struggling with eating disorders and mental health issues to work towards getting in touch with their intuitive selves. And what it really means is kind of basically that, like where you're actually getting in touch with your body, with your mind, with your spirit, like basically just being able to hear exactly what your body is communicating to you, what your sense of self, like your deeper in like your intuitive self, you call it your spiritual self, whatever it might be, is kind of speaking to you, as well as kind of listening to like, what is my mind telling me? And then by having an awareness and actually like being mindful and listening, we're better able to respond in a very intuitive way so that it's accommodating and meeting those needs rather than kind of just going by a lot of different formatic or robotic systems. So like, I think our society runs on a go, 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 like make sure you check things off the list, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes that can impede on our ability to hear what our bodies and what our selves are telling us. So that's kind of the overall goal. And we work to try to get our clients to that place as well, long term. A really, really helpful way I like to parallel it is when you look at children, they're kind of like the best example or the purest example of intuitive beings because everything they do is very in tune with what their need is. So for the most part, as long as there's no other kind of hindrance. So there's, when they're hungry, they let you know. When they're full, they push away, they're done. When they're tired, they let you know. And they go to sleep. When they're wanting to play and happy, they're happy. Like they're just very in tune. Obviously, that's a different stage of development than being an adult, but it's a great way to kind of identify with what would be like an intuitive, like what would it look like to be fully intuitive. And I think children and animals are kind of the biggest, like the purest example to see that.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking about my kids. I mean, it is just so inspiring how intuitive they are. I mean, they literally will tell you exactly what they need, and they're not even aware that they're doing it, which is
right.
So crazy.
Yeah, there's not really much thought. And I think that's kind of also like with practice of this being kind of a priority and a lifestyle, you can really develop a very symbiotic relationship with yourself and with your body to know like, okay, it's letting me know I just can do this. It's not as stressful as maybe it needs to be.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like this has been the perfect time intuitive because we aren't as fast paced and we're able to have that time to start, to practice it. So, okay, you ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. How do I use this when I'm stuck at home and how can I practice it?
Well, that goes right into what you were just saying, that this is a great opportunity to go in this direction. Yeah, like you said, a lot of things have slowed down for a lot of us. There's a lot, I think what's really interesting and maybe what's helpful in this is that a lot of the excess in our lives, not necessarily that it's bad, but all the non-essential environments and businesses are shut down right now, and we're called to stay home. So there's more of an opportunity to practice the ability to get more in tune with yourself and identify and be aware of your needs. So how I would recommend doing this at home is, I think one of the primary steps towards this is having some space for stillness and really looking inward. So if you're able to set a time daily to just, remove all excess, no like social media, nothing that's going to like bring in distraction, and just and have a journal and just take some time, maybe 10 minutes, to just write down, what are you thinking that day? Like, what are you noticing? When you look at this, look from like the mind, body, spirit perspective, and say like, what mentally am I thinking? What are my thoughts telling me? What is my body telling me? Am I noticing anything like any tightness in my body? Am I noticing like, oh, in this moment I'm hungry. Oh, in this moment I'm actually full from the snack I had or the meal I had right before this. Just what is my body telling me? And then like if you are, however you practice a spiritual lens, I think we all have like a spirit of ourselves in us. And so also looking at, are there any things like within my heart and in myself that I'm noticing as well? And just take some time to write those things down. And then throughout the day, as this becomes kind of a daily practice where you're setting some time and setting apart some stillness to just kind of get in touch, you can start to carry it out through your day-to-day lifestyle. So creating a routine where maybe you have like a moment before a meal or after a meal where you just kind of re-engage into that practice and just say, what is my body telling me? What is my mind telling me? How do I feel in my spirit right now? And then also like with other activities, like when you're going to bed, am I feeling tired right now? What do I notice from the day? What is my body telling me now? If you're staying active throughout this whole stay-at-home order and doing different exercises at home, is your body telling you, oh, I kind of want to lay off this, I don't really like this? Like if you find yourself dreading it, listen to that and say, oh, maybe there's something else that I want to do instead. Like maybe I'd rather actually just go outside and enjoy the outside and go for a walk. Or maybe I want to actually do yoga today instead of like whatever else it might be. Or if you're finding yourself craving something, that's your body's way of telling you, and your spirit like saying, oh, I actually really want to do this. So honor that. So I think that just practicing some moments of stillness really helps us get in touch with the art of intuitive self. And then throughout the day, using that practice that you've already kind of taken some time for to bring it into all these different areas of our lives, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I was going to add on, I'm going a little rogue here. That's okay.
I love it.
So, okay, good. I think also with intuitive eating, it can also be like, you can have a cookie if you're not hungry, but you just feel like a cookie. Like I think people get focused on it having to be perfect. Like if you don't listen to your body's telling you you need to eat this, or you don't want to eat and you do eat something. So how do you work through that when you have an eating disorder? You're just struggling with disordered eating.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the hardest places of tension is there's so many rules with an eating disorder, but also I think there's a lot of rules and restrictions over eating in our culture in general, of like just hearing that whole like you shouldn't kind of a thing, where that can kind of limit ourselves from being able to hear what we are desiring, and also like what our body may either need or want in the moment. It's also, there's so much joy that comes from food, and that comes within, like whether it's sharing a meal, like through relationships, or also just enjoying it. We have taste buds for a reason. It's not just, it is fuel, but it's not just fuel, if that makes sense. It's more than just hunger and fullness. And so if you are finding yourself desiring something, look into that desire and honor it. Like I was saying before, I think the practice of honoring and being supportive of your body and like of yourself creates that really peace-led symbiotic relationship. And I think just looking at it in a form of a relationship, with my clients that really struggle with very rigid, restrictive rule-based eating rules. We look at it as a relationship, and we look at the relationship with your body and yourself as one, and looking at, like, if you were in a relationship with another person, would you constantly be berating them for wanting something that's a good thing? Or would you be telling them, like, what kind of relationship would live under so many rules of right, wrong, good versus bad, yes versus no? That's really controlling and restricting. And the difficulty with an eating disorder is that it's actually often paralleling what people are already experiencing somewhere in their lives of feeling restricted and feeling very confined or controlled, but they're actually reenacting that to themselves. So we try to work on how do we be very loving and gracious, respectful, honoring, supportive, nurturing, and caring, and using those principles to bring it into an opportunity where if you want to have a cookie because you enjoy a cookie and it makes you feel good, then go have the cookie, and enjoy it.
And I think with movement, that there's a lot of restrictions too around someone who has an eating disorder, that it has to be like a certain number of hours, you have to burn so many calories. So how do you, like, for example, work with the clients on the movement piece?
Yeah, and this is kind of like my bread and butter. Like, I love this area because I've worked in the fitness industry, and I have like such a joy for movement, but I really believe that joy is a part of that. Everybody's different in what they enjoy in using their bodies, but our bodies are designed to be used however that may be, whether that's enjoying getting outside, like I said, for a walk, or you enjoy yoga, or you enjoy hula hooping. It doesn't matter. It's a process of bringing joy. Because again, going back to that children analogy, you look at kids, they're constantly, the playground's so fun to watch because they're just so excited to get to do things because their bodies are a vehicle to move them. And so I think, this doesn't just come up in eating disorders. This comes up in our culture very strongly, where there's a lot of pressure for exercise and movement to look a certain way. And it's all about looking at it as like an end goal of whether it be like weight gain, weight loss, like whatever it might be, that often I think we're missing the true purpose and like the point and the joy of what movement is designed to do. And that is to use your body and move and feel good. So how I direct that is, again, I go back to what I said earlier, is I think that there's a stillness factor that needs to happen in order to get in touch with your intuitive self. And bringing that principle into your practice of your routine. And as you go about doing different exercises or different types of movement, checking in with yourself and seeing, like, usually the day after or later at the end of the day, how did I feel about that? And like I was saying earlier, do I want to do that again, or am I dreading it? Mm-hmm. Am I looking at this as, obviously, like, it doesn't always feel good to use your body, because if you're bringing your heart rate up, it is work. There's energy and effort. But if you find yourself like enjoying the process and finding yourself being like, you know what, I do want to do that again because I feel good, then that's a good indicator. If you find yourself getting distressed because you didn't follow it a certain way, or you missed a day, or whatever, like it didn't, I push away from all like calculating and counting on movement, because I think that kind of feeds into that. Like when we're watching how many calories we burned, or watching the clock, or, all those types of things, I really try to stay away from that, because that can, like, again, hinder that ability to connect with what is my body telling me? What is my spirit telling me in this? What are my thoughts telling me? How do I feel overall? And let those things guide you. And you might be really interested to see how your body kind of leads you, because one day you may want to go for a run, and then the next you want to just sit still in the grass, and that's just what you want to do, and that's okay.
Yeah, that is so well said. Yeah, I completely agree. And I notice, when I used to do the exercise dreading, I think that's the biggest indicator that you're not being intuitive, is when you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go on the treadmill for an hour. And so then that's like my huge red flag that, don't go on the treadmill for an hour.
Yeah.
Something else. And when I think about, doing another movement, and get excited about it, then that's the direction that I need to go in.
Yeah, find something else that overall you're feeling more joy, like life-giving and fulfilled by, rather than if there's that consistent level of dread, you're really not listening to yourself. You're forcing yourself to do something. And science has shown that also limits the results, because there's a huge process to the benefit of movement that comes with the hormonal release in your brain. And if you're not listening to yourself, you're causing more stress, which causes more cortisol, which can actually like affect the process of what movement is intended to do and designed to do, which is like to feel better. And like I said, use your body as a vehicle to move yourself out and about, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I can't believe it's already 15 minutes. We
We actually went over.
I did. I was concerned that we wouldn't. We'd have too much time left. So, I mean, thank you so much. That was really interesting. That helped me today. I wanted to. We'll just extend it really quick. Talk about what is something that you're grateful for right now during that's had happened during this pandemic.
Yeah, I would say I'm really grateful for the perspective that removing some of my extra accessories in life, as far as just like places I go and things I had in my schedule, to really like simplifying. And I'm finding just so much joy in getting to spend a lot of time home with my son, who's a year and a half, you know, speaking of intuitive. And then also just with my husband. So just enjoying some like simplified time at home. We're doing a lot of house projects and just kind of getting to just be together.
Yeah, that was mine too. Is I just love being with my family, and you know, I work and my husband stays home with kids, so he really gets to spend a lot of time with them, and I'm learning so much about them right now, and we are just all bonded. We have to be, and you know, there are times that are a little bit more challenging, but for the most part, it's just been so wonderful to just get to know them more, you know, and their little personalities, and see how they go through it, because they really. So it's still very intuitive. So we take the lead, you know, they take the lead and we just follow, which has really been fun. So, thank you so much, Crystal. This was wonderful.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Mel.
Yeah. We know you'll be doing more as well.
I'll be back.
So easy. Yeah. We'll just try not to be on for like an hour.
Yeah.
So really quick, I just want to tell you guys about our next Facebook Live, which is tomorrow from 10 to 10:15. And it's exposure response prevention at home while in eating disorder treatment. Exposure response prevention is one of my favorite parts of our program. It is real world experiences in a safe space. So, and that's with Teresa Carmichael. You guys have seen her before, and she's a registered dietitian. So we'll see you guys tomorrow at 10.
And real quick, Mel, just to kind of add in what exposure response is, it's basically working through when we're speaking on like some of those rules and issues with putting restrictions on good versus bad. It's some of those challenging areas of like food, or well, I think this is for food, where maybe you've put a lot of rules around like something, or shame even on a certain type of food, but it's actually something maybe your intuitive self actually wants to have. So the exposure response is actually an opportunity to expose it and become more free and able to like challenge and see, what does my intuitive self tell me about this food? Do I actually really like it, or am I actually not? And getting more in touch with that intuitive eating. So just in case somebody out there who hasn't,
they're like, what?
Know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys have a good day. Thank you. Bye.